General Hospital spoilers tease that Lucas has always approached his work as a medical examiner with precision and professionalism. But the case of Natalia's death is beginning to unravel in ways he never expected. Initially, everything seemed to point to a natural cause of death. Perhaps a tragic accident or an unforeseen health complication. However, something about the case kept nagging at Lucas. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than met the eye. As he conducted the autopsy, his doubts grew stronger. The initial findings didn't add up. And he found himself scrutinizing every detail with more intensity. It wasn't until Lucas began running more tests and looking deeper into Natalia's medical history that the truth started to emerge. And what he discovered was nothing short of a shock. During the autopsy, Lucas found signs of poisoning, a discovery that left him reeling. At first, he thought it was a mistake, maybe an error in the initial readings or a fluke in the lab work. But the more he examined the evidence, the clearer it became: Natalia had been deliberately poisoned. It wasn't just a random act of negligence or an accidental overdose, it was murder. The revelation sent shockwaves through Lucas, who found himself questioning everything he thought he knew about the case. The death of Natalia, a woman whose life seemed to have been full of promise, had been taken from her in a calculated and deliberate act. For Lucas, the realization that Natalia had been poisoned was both a professional and personal blow. He was no stranger to death. But murder was a different matter entirely. The fact that someone had carefully planned and executed such a sinister act filled him with a sense of dread. Who could have done this? And more importantly, why? As he pieced together the clues, Lucas couldn't ignore the implications of his discovery. If Natalia had been poisoned, then it meant she had been targeted. Her death wasn't a random event but a strategic move. This opened up a whole new set of questions, ones that Lucas wasn't sure he was prepared to answer. The discovery of poisoning also led Lucas to consider the broader ramifications. This wasn't just about Natalia anymore, it was about the larger network of people, motives, and events that had brought her to this point. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that Natalia's death could be tied to something far greater than he had initially imagined. There were too many questions, too many unknowns. Who stood to gain from her death? And how deep did this conspiracy go? Lucas's mind raced as he began to think about the connections between Natalia's life and the people she had interacted with. Were there others involved? Was this part of a larger scheme, and if so, how far would it go? The weight of the discovery was overwhelming, not only because of the personal impact on Lucas but also because of the danger it could present. As a medical examiner, his job was to find the truth, no matter how ugly or complicated it might be. But this case was proving to be far more than just a routine investigation. It had the potential to expose a much larger web of lies, deceit, and murder that could bring down anyone involved. For Lucas, this was no longer just a professional duty, it had become a dangerous pursuit of the truth, one that could cost him far more than he bargained for. As he moved forward with the investigation, Lucas felt a growing sense of urgency. The discovery of poisoning was just the beginning, and the deeper he dug, the more he feared what he might uncover. He knew that someone, perhaps several people, were responsible for Natalia's death, but uncovering their identities and motives would be no easy task. Lucas realized that he couldn't do this alone. He needed help. He needed to bring in others who could assist him in navigating the complex web of connections that surrounded Natalia's death. But as he began to reach out to others, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. That the people responsible for Natalia's death were already aware of his discovery and were prepared to stop him from getting any closer to the truth. The more Lucas thought about the circumstances surrounding Natalia's death, the more he was convinced that this was no ordinary murder. The poisoning was a calculated move. And the fact that it was carried out so carefully suggested that those behind it were not just ordinary criminals, they were professionals. This was a high-stakes game. And Lucas was now an unwilling player in it. The shock of the discovery had worn off, but the gravity of the situation was becoming clearer by the hour. As Lucas moved forward with the investigation, He knew that he was walking a dangerous path. The truth about Natalia's death was more complicated than he could have imagined, and the more he uncovered, the more he realized that he was getting closer to a truth that could change everything. For Lucas, the discovery of the poisoning was a turning point in his career and in his life. It was no longer just about solving a case, it was about surviving the dangers that came with uncovering the truth. And as he dug deeper, he couldn't help but feel that the danger was closing in on him. What started as a simple autopsy had turned into a shocking revelation that threatened to unravel everything Lucas had ever known about the world around him. The investigation into Natalia's death was no longer just a case, it had become a battle for survival, and Lucas was right in the middle of it. The truth was out there. But finding it could come at a cost that he wasn't ready to pay. Lucas, after carefully piecing together the details of Natalia's death, is ready to report his findings. And what he uncovers sends shockwaves through everyone involved. His investigation into the mysterious poisoning of Natalia has led him to an unexpected and disturbing conclusion. Sidwell is somehow connected to her murder. The revelation hits like a bombshell, throwing everything into chaos. Sidwell, a man whose involvement in the darker corners of Port Charles's underworld had always been suspected, is now directly linked to one of the most shocking acts of violence the city has seen in recent months. As Lucas examines the evidence more closely, it becomes clear that Sidwell was not only involved in the poisoning but may have orchestrated it for his own purposes. The proof Lucas uncovers is damning, and the implications are far-reaching. Natalia's death was not a random act but a calculated move in a larger game, and Sidwell is at the center of it all. This discovery is both a breakthrough and a nightmare for everyone involved, as it opens up a whole new world of questions about Sidwell's true intentions and the people he may be working with. Lucas knows that revealing this information will send ripples through the entire city. But he also understands that it's the only way to bring justice to Natalia and uncover the full extent of Sidwell's machinations. The discovery also marks the beginning of a new chapter in the investigation, one that brings with it a sense of impending doom. As Marco becomes more involved in the unfolding drama, his own role in the situation starts to escalate. What once seemed like a straightforward investigation is now morphing into something far darker. Marco's ties to Sidwell and his own growing obsession with the case are beginning to surface. His own personal stake in the outcome of this investigation is making things even more complicated. Marco, driven by his desire for power and control, is fueling the fire, pushing events forward in ways that threaten to destroy everything in its path. The new evidence Lucas presents about Sidwell's involvement in the poisoning of Natalia has the potential to unravel everything that has been hidden in Port Charles for so long. With this discovery, the carefully constructed facade that Sidwell has maintained begins to crack. He's no longer the shadowy figure operating behind the scenes, he is now a prime suspect. And the evidence is stacking up against him in a way that cannot be ignored. The walls are closing in on him, and the pressure is mounting. What's worse, Lucas's findings also suggest that Sidwell may not have acted alone. There are other forces at work here, and they are ready to pull everyone into their orbit. Sidwell's obsession with controlling the people around him and manipulating events to suit his own needs is becoming even more evident. As Lucas digs deeper, he uncovers a web of lies, deceit, and manipulation that ties Sidwell to many of the dark dealings going on in Port Charles. Sidwell's actions, both past and present, are a reflection of his growing obsession with power and control. And the more Lucas learns about him, the clearer it becomes that this is just the tip of the iceberg. The world around them is shifting. And nothing will ever be the same once this information comes to light. For Lucas, this is a moment of both triumph and terror. While the discovery of the truth is crucial, the consequences of exposing Sidwell could be far-reaching. He's stepping into a dangerous world, and the more he unearths, the more he realizes how little control he truly has. Sidwell's obsession with maintaining control over everyone in his life is beginning to take on an even more dangerous edge, and as Lucas moves forward with his findings, he knows that nothing will be easy from here on out. This new evidence is only the beginning of what could be an even darker journey into the heart of Port Charles's criminal underworld. The tension surrounding the discovery is palpable, as Marco's involvement begins to explode. His role in the larger scheme becomes clearer, and his own obsessions with control and power come to the forefront. As Marco works to further his own agenda, it's clear that he will stop at nothing to manipulate the situation for his own benefit. His personal vendetta against those who have crossed him is clouding his judgment, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to tell who is really pulling the strings in this unfolding drama. What started as a simple investigation into Natalia's death has now spiraled into a complex and dangerous web of betrayal, obsession, and manipulation. Sidwell's involvement has shaken everyone to the core, and the truth is more destructive than anyone could have imagined. As Lucas and others work to uncover more about Sidwell's actions and the people behind the scenes, they are forced to confront the uncomfortable reality that this is far from over. In fact, it's only just beginning. The twists and turns ahead will change everything, and the consequences of revealing the truth will leave a permanent mark on everyone involved. The explosive revelations about Sidwell's role in the poisoning of Natalia are just the beginning of a much larger, much darker story. The obsession surrounding this case has only grown. And it's clear that the power plays, manipulations, and dangerous decisions will continue to unfold. For Lucas, Marco, and everyone caught in the crossfire, the stakes are higher than ever. And the future is uncertain. What started as a quest for justice has now become a battle for survival, and no one knows just how far the ripple effects of these discoveries will reach. Sonny and Dante are gearing up for one of the most intense and dangerous battles they've ever faced, one that could forever alter the balance of power in Port Charles. The enemy they're up against is Sidwell, a man whose obsession with control, manipulation, and power has wreaked havoc on their lives for far too long. Sidwell has crossed every line imaginable, targeting Sonny's family, sabotaging his business, and causing chaos at every turn. Now, Sonny is determined to end it once and for all. With the stakes at their highest, Sonny and Dante have forged an alliance not only driven by vengeance but by the desperate need to ensure that Sidwell never has the ability to harm anyone ever again. Sonny, a seasoned mafia boss who has dealt with countless enemies in his time, knows this battle won't be easy. Sidwell is dangerous, cunning, and willing to do whatever it takes to stay in control. He's not just after Sonny's empire, he's after everything Sonny holds dear. This fight is personal, and Sonny is ready to do whatever it takes to bring Sidwell to justice. Even if it means crossing moral lines he's always tried to avoid. As Sonny plans his every move, he knows that Sidwell is just as determined to keep his hold on power. But Sonny's resolve is unshakable. With Dante by his side, the two of them are prepared for war, ready to take down Sidwell before he can destroy them all. Dante, driven by loyalty to his father and his sense of duty, has always stood by Sonny's side in times of crisis. But this battle is different. This fight is not just about protecting their family or business, it's about ensuring that Sidwell, a dangerous man whose ambitions know no bounds, is finally put behind bars. Dante understands the gravity of the situation. As much as he wants to see Sidwell brought to justice, he also knows that the danger is real, and the risks are higher than ever. This is no longer just about protecting a criminal empire, it's about keeping his family safe from a man who will stop at nothing to tear them apart. Dante's loyalty to his father is unquestionable. But as he faces this fight, he is forced to confront just how far he is willing to go to win this war. However, the fight against Sidwell is becoming even more complicated as personal demons begin to surface in the lives of those involved. Marco, once a peripheral character in this battle, is now thrust into the heart of the conflict, and his unraveling mental state is adding fuel to the fire. Marco's turmoil is deeply personal. And the discovery that his parents had killed each other is a revelation that shakes him to his core. For Marco, this isn't just about family drama. This is a painful reckoning with the darkness that runs through his bloodline. The shock of learning that his parents, the two people who brought him into this world, were responsible for each other's deaths has created a seismic shift in Marco's mind, one that he can't easily recover from. For Marco, the trauma of this discovery isn't just about understanding the past, it's about confronting the present. The legacy of his parents' violent deaths is now hanging over him. threatening to destroy whatever sense of self he has left. He's caught in a whirlwind of emotions, grief, rage, confusion, and as he tries to reconcile with the truth, he finds himself sinking deeper into a mental and emotional spiral. Marco's obsession with understanding his parents' actions, combined with the pressure of the ongoing battle with Sidwell, is pushing him to the brink. His grip on reality is becoming more tenuous, and he is now at risk of losing control over his own life. Marco's mental breakdown is not just an internal struggle, it's something that could have catastrophic consequences for everyone around him. His growing instability makes him unpredictable. And as he becomes more consumed by the tragic legacy of his parents, he starts to make decisions that are increasingly reckless and dangerous. As he becomes more entangled in his own emotions, Marco's ability to think clearly and make rational choices is deteriorating. He begins to act out of anger, fear, and confusion, and these impulsive decisions could prove to be his undoing. His role in the larger conflict with Sidwell is now uncertain, and his unpredictable behavior could destabilize the delicate balance that Sonny and Dante are working so hard to maintain. The collision between Sonny's war against Sidwell and Marco's personal crisis creates a volatile situation that threatens to unravel everything. Marco's instability could derail the entire plan to take down Sidwell, and the consequences of his actions could put everyone in grave danger. Sonny and Dante are already walking a tightrope, trying to navigate a treacherous path to bring down Sidwell while keeping their family safe. Now, with Marco's mental state deteriorating, they are forced to contend with an additional layer of chaos that they hadn't anticipated. Marco is not just a bystander in this war, his personal unraveling is becoming a key factor in how things will play out. As the situation grows more intense, the stakes become even higher. Sonny and Dante, despite their strategic advantage, are beginning to realize that they might not be able to control every element of this battle. Sidwell is a dangerous foe. But so is Marco's fractured state of mind. His actions are unpredictable, and the longer he spirals, the more likely it is that he will make a move that will destabilize everything. The war against Sidwell is now intertwined with Marco's emotional breakdown, and it's becoming clear that this conflict will take them all to the edge of disaster. What started as a plan to take down Sidwell has now evolved into a fight for survival on multiple fronts, with Marco's emotional instability threatening to derail everything. Sonny and Dante are caught between their desire for justice and the overwhelming chaos that is threatening to tear their lives apart. The war against Sidwell is no longer just about one man's downfall, it's about keeping their own family intact amidst a whirlwind of emotional turmoil, personal betrayal, and relentless obsession. The stakes are higher than ever, and the outcome remains uncertain. The future of everyone involved depends on how far they are willing to go to fight for their lives, and how much they're willing to lose along the way. Lucas is stepping into a new phase of his life. One where he is gaining a newfound sense of control over his circumstances. His journey has been one of challenges and uncertainties, but the recent revelations surrounding Natalia's death, and the shocking discovery of Sidwell's involvement, have ignited something in him. For the first time, Lucas feels like he's in a position of power, not just as a medical examiner uncovering the truth, but as a man who has finally found his footing in the midst of chaos. The secrets he's uncovered have given him more influence than ever, and he's beginning to see the potential to use that influence in ways that he hadn't considered before. In particular, Lucas has begun to realize the strength of his growing connection with Marco. The dynamic between them has shifted dramatically in recent weeks. Where Marco was once consumed by his personal demons, particularly the horrifying discovery about his parents' deaths, Lucas's support has become a lifeline for him. The bond between them, though complicated, has become an unexpected source of strength for both men. Lucas, who had previously been focused on his professional role, is now learning how to apply his influence to help Marco navigate the emotional and mental storm he is enduring. Their relationship is evolving, not just as allies in the investigation but as something more. Lucas is becoming a stabilizing force for Marco, helping him work through the trauma of his past and the overwhelming emotional burden he is carrying. Marco, who has always struggled with his sense of identity and his place in the world, is now seeing Lucas in a new light. It's a slow-burning connection, one that neither man expected, but both seem to be leaning into more with each passing day. Lucas's calm demeanor and his ability to approach Marco's personal turmoil with empathy and patience are beginning to break through Marco's walls, revealing a side of him that's vulnerable and capable of change. As the two men work closely together, the tension that has long existed between them begins to soften. They find themselves confiding in each other more, their conversations not only focused on the investigation but also on their personal lives, their fears, and their hopes. This shift is something neither Lucas nor Marco anticipated, but it is undeniable. What started as a professional relationship rooted in the investigation into Natalia's death is now blossoming into something deeper, something more personal. There's a palpable chemistry between them, a subtle attraction that neither of them knows how to fully navigate, but which is impossible to ignore. This change in their dynamic represents a shift in Lucas's life as well. For so long, he had been defined by his work, by the need to uncover the truth and deal with the emotional weight of his job. But now, with Marco entering his life in a way he hadn't expected, Lucas is beginning to realize that his personal life deserves just as much attention. He is no longer just a man buried in his work, he is someone capable of love, of connection, and of seeking something more meaningful outside the confines of his professional role. The relationship between Lucas and Marco isn't without its challenges. Both men are dealing with significant emotional baggage, and the complexity of their bond isn't lost on either of them. But the way they are learning to support each other and open up is a testament to the growth they are both undergoing. Marco is beginning to trust Lucas in ways he hasn't with anyone else, and Lucas, for the first time in a long time, is learning to allow himself to be vulnerable. They're building something that feels both fragile and significant, an unexpected romance born out of shared struggles, mutual support, and a deep understanding of each other's pain. As this new relationship takes shape, Lucas is starting to understand the profound impact Marco is having on him. It's not just about helping Marco deal with the trauma of his parents' deaths or guiding him through the mess of their investigation into Sidwell and Natalia's murder. It's about something more personal. The connection between them is changing Lucas in ways he hadn't expected. The more time they spend together, the more he finds himself caring for Marco. Not just as a friend, but as someone who might be more than that. The development of this new romance brings with it both excitement and uncertainty. For Lucas, it's a journey of self-discovery, of allowing himself to be open to something that could be both beautiful and challenging. For Marco, it's an opportunity to heal from the wounds of his past and embrace the possibility of a future that isn't defined by trauma or fear. Together, they are embarking on a path that is both new and unknown, a path that will require them to face their own vulnerabilities and take risks they hadn't anticipated. This relationship, though still in its early stages, promises to be a powerful force in both their lives. It's a story of healing, of growth, and of love emerging from unexpected places. As they navigate the complexities of their pasts and their connection, Lucas and Marco will find themselves not only uncovering the truth about the world around them but also discovering truths about themselves, and each other, that they never could have imagined. The shift in their relationship is not just a new chapter in their lives, it's a journey that will change them both forever.